Yo, this is Riot Girl. I'm going to be doing some spoken word poetry on my channel, so here goes. My first one is the progression of the boogeyman, and this has to do with the whole stereotyping of Muslims as terrorists. So here we go. They used to tell children the boogeyman was a myth. Living between the crevices of stuffed dolls whispered invisible passwords of secret wonderlands beyond the utilitarian confinement of adulthood that never understood their system of growing synapses holding barely any filter to process the subjectivity of a kindergarten teeter-totter called right or wrong. Let me tell you, adulthood is just an excuse to act in accordance to the aftermath of losing sandcastles to nature we could never completely control. So what can you do when the myths come alive in horror stories and flickers of flashlights in the eyes of containers of innocence we name children, who know better than most of us what growing up means before knowing the name of it? Never mind the falsehood of myths being dead. In the adult world, the boogeyman is alive with the fabric of its history around its head. It is a female wearing a hijab. It is a male listening to someone tell him, go back to where you came from, back in the cupboards of a homeland, lost the suppression of its oppression, made by a few of his brothers out of small wooden walls, naming names in vain. To us, our boogeyman can never be singularly subjective because it objects in prayer to an existence beyond the limits of our imaginary land we call reality that has no mouth to speak in our two dimensions. It relents in surrendering to creation beyond the chains of its physicality, dwelling in the depths of an unseen but not unforeseen reality. To tell you the truth, I never believed there was such a thing as a boogeyman, but I was and have been afraid of the idea that there are such beings called the boogeymen, who are justified to live in the crevices of a misconceived power to uphold a right to end or damn a life in laws and curses for living beyond the closet door of American conventions. We are our own boogeymen, willing to deny another human being the right to believe in piety or in the outright quantum mechanics of two syllables in that word, Allah. We are our own boogeyman with veins of corrupted, slimy green adrenaline, ready to clock the lock on a gun to shoot a child, a man, a woman, or an elder for not drawing God in dimensions that only belong to them, to us. We are our own boogeyman, ready to spread fragile mutant genes of ignorance and proclaiming they are a disease we got to reckon with. Screw this, I don't want to be disguised myself as a boogeyman. I want to wear my 2D face of a human who's human enough to tell a Muslim woman she is beautiful for protecting her beauty with silence behind a veil, who is human enough to tell a Muslim man with his prayer in between seconds of his sentences, bless you, who is human enough to see God in between the subsequent layers of the prayer behind one name, Allah. So why should I support a people who are willing to wear masks filled with the shed blood of their history they subconsciously praise as a crusade, who in the broken definition of holiness behind the cowardice of a sword can in our present justify burning a Quran? Screw this, I'd rather not name myself American. I'd rather name myself a child of the earth and say that I'm not an adult because in the words of Allah, in every Quran, in every Torah, in every Bible, we are God's children. Whether we hear him in our two dimensions of sums of syllables, of numbers, of lines and symbols. So please, when you tell your children the boogeyman doesn't exist, hold your tongue from deviance and incorrection. Tell them they do exist, just not in closets. And that's it. So sorry if you have to see my nose, but or like the echo of the room. So that's pretty much it.